Good afternoon. I am Cesar Delgado from Backroads of Illinois podcast on Google Podcast and YouTube with Trent Ford from the University of Illinois. Good afternoon. How are you today, Trent?
I am doing good. I'm ready for the weekend and ready for some cooler air to move in and maybe some rain at some point.
Trent, is there anything would you like to go to tell the audience about this weather conditions for the state of Illinois?
Yeah, it has been pretty wild. The last a month or so has been, we've had drought that's really persisted since April, and it's gotten better since the beginning of July in many places. And we've gotten more rain, more consistent rain across the region. But there are still some places that are missing, and there are some places that got some relief in early July and haven't really since then. So around here in Champaign, we got about 2 to 4 inches of rain right in the first couple weeks of July, which is really beneficial. But since then, it's been again pretty dry, so slipping back into drought. And then we've also had some really intense severe weather. We had the derecho across central Illinois earlier, and now we have the extreme heat that is temporary, thankfully, but impactful nonetheless. So, July can be an active weather month, and this month is definitely no different.
Can you tell to the audience about this weather conditions for this growing season for this summer?
Yeah, it's actually been a bit of an odd season. We've been very dry, even with July. July will end likely wetter than normal, but it'll be the first wetter than normal month we've had since March across the state. And as July typically is, there's haves and there's have-nots. So when we add up, the deficits that accumulated since April, is really beginning of the growing season, we're still behind on precipitation in most places. Even the places in southern Illinois, they got a ton of rain a couple weeks ago. So from a precipitation standpoint, we're looking better this growing season than what we were, again, like right around the beginning of July. But we still need more. And as far as the temperatures are concerned, it's weird to be saying this on a day when it's 95, 96 degrees outside here in Champaign, but our temperatures have actually been quite mild. The same pattern that's kept us dry has helped keep a pretty consistent northerly flow coming from the north, which has brought us some wildfire smoke, but has also kept us a little bit on the cool side. So it's sort of odd to have a drought year where we don't have a lot of extreme heat. And really, the last couple of days have really been the only instance of really extreme temperatures that we've seen, at least for the northern, maybe 2/3 of the state this year. So like I said, a bit of an odd year. It's been a challenge, for growing. Obviously, drought is always a challenge. But I think, talking to me now at the end of July versus a month ago at the end of June, I think things are looking a lot better than they were back then.
Or the weather in Illinois with El Nino pattern of the summer?
Yeah, so we are squarely in an El Nino pattern in the tropical Pacific. El Nino is an ocean pattern first and foremost, and then it can influence our climate by kind of interacting with the atmosphere. What we've seen so far from El Nino this year is the oceans are playing the tune of El Nino, but the atmosphere hasn't really responded yet, at least not in a scale that we can really measure across the U.S. And so typically when we have an El Nino pattern that is playing to tune, or playing to type, I guess, across the Midwest in July and August, it tends to be very stormy, and it tends to actually be a bit cooler. And so, although we haven't seen that yet, when you look at the Climate Prediction Center outlooks for August, September, and October kind of put together, they're both leaning a little bit wetter than normal, especially in Southern Illinois, and cooler than normal or near normal temperatures. And that's very El Nino-esque. So although we haven't necessarily seen its influence yet, the brightest minds at the Climate Prediction Center are banking on El Nino really playing a significant role in our late summer and maybe even early fall climate.
Finally, what is your opinion for the weather pattern from El Nino?
Yeah, so if El Nino comes up, steps up to the plate and actually influences our weather like it can, I think it will be a bit cooler than normal, if not near normal temperatures in August, and that'll carry through to September, October, and it'll give us frequent chances of storms. One wild card that we need to look out for is the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures are extremely warm, in some places off the charts warm. And so what that does is can add fuel to any sort of development of tropical systems out there. So if we get tropical storm development in the Atlantic and it makes it into the Gulf, there's a good chance that we could see some pretty rapid intensification of those storms. And so what could be not great news for the Gulf Coast, those tropical storms, if they can make it up to the Midwest, can provide some added relief from droughts. So it's just something completely unpredictable right now as far as tropical systems are concerned, especially as they relate to Midwest precipitation, but it's a wild card to watch as we get deeper into August.
Friend, is there anything would you like to go to tell the audience about this weather conditions for the state of Illinois and the Midwest?
Yeah, it's really been an odd weather year. January to March was active. Lots of severe weather. We have the drought, which is still ongoing, like I said, kind of weakened. And we've had this kind of persistent northerly northwesterly flow through the summer so far. Now the last few days, last week, really notwithstanding, the humidity's come back. I almost forgot what it felt like to have humidity in the air. It doesn't feel good, as a reminder. But it does look like, when we look at the near term outlooks, the first few weeks of August, likely regressing back to kind of near normal temperatures, and also near normal precipitation. So as this ridge that's giving us this heat and a little bit of the dryness regresses back west and continues to plague El Paso and Albuquerque and Phoenix, we may get a little bit of relief in the next couple of weeks from the heat and hopefully additional chances for rain more widespread.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? Hopefully it's nice and cool.
Thanks, Trent, for coming to my podcast. This is Trent Ford from the University of Illinois. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you, Cesar. You have a good weekend. Stay cool.
Thanks, you too good to hear you.
Yeah. Well, likewise. We'll see you later then. Bye.
Bye.